Board of Education meeting.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Bab.
Here.
Palage.
Here.
Yes.
Okay, we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 1.2, adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Stuckey.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bab.
Yes.
Palage.
Yes. Okay, item 1.3, approval of amended April 11th, 2019 meeting minutes to include March 7th, 2019 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Questions?
And just as an explanation, those just didn't get the final approval, so we're just going back and doing the final approval.
Stuckey.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bab.
Yes.
Yes.
Palage.
Okay, item 1.4, approval of the July 15, 2019 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
Stuckey.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bab.
Yes.
Palage.
Yes. Okay, we'll move into public participation and introduction of guests. Mr. Schreier?
Mr. President, we are blessed in Warren County to work with a great organization known as United Way. Since I have been here, Aaron Reed has also begun his leadership of the Warren County United Way. And Aaron has several passions revolving around the United Way, whether it's workforce development or many of the other programs United Way does. And so what he wanted to do is give a little presentation tonight for the board. I know he's on the tour of schools here in Warren County, and we appreciate you coming here to Springboro Schools. Aaron, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm on my school district appreciation tour, so I'm going around to different school districts around the area. And I've promised all of the superintendents, and now I'll promise you that I'm going to do this in about 3 minutes or less, because this is my 8th meeting of the day, so I'm sure you all don't want me to sit here and talk too. So just wanted to echo or right back at you. We value our partnership with Springboro Community Schools. You guys are great, do fantastic things for the community. We value our partnership, and that's expressed in a lot of the things that we try to do for this community, and you partner with us on. We were very proud this year to be the first year that we were able to provide some funding to the Springboro Community Assistance Center. So that was the first time that we've been able to do that. So we're pleased with that. Superintendent Schreier, Mr. Schreier, Dr. How am I supposed to refer to you? Dan said that Dan had mentioned the workforce thing. We developed a new workforce program. This was our first year. We're focusing on kids who are not going to the Career Center and are not going to go to college, and helping them find good career pathways right out of high school. We had 26 kids accept full-time jobs the day they graduated. We've been talking with your folks about bringing it up here too. We launched a summer program, and it wasn't formal or anything. We just kind of ad hoc'd it a little bit, but you have a graduate of yours, an engineering student at Ohio State, who was doing an internship at High Tech Manufacturing down in Mason. So thanks for helping us make our non-existent summer program a success. That was fantastic. For about the past 6 years, we've been able to have our Stop Summer Slide preschool literacy program, where we've been able to distribute books to every preschooler enrolled in a district preschool. I think we've been doing that for 6 years, and countywide it's been over 20,000 books. And we do all this through, we have a variety of funding sources, but the primary funding source is what you've probably heard of, the United Way campaign. And Springboro schools have a long history of supporting us, and I had to jot down some notes, and I certainly hope I didn't miss anybody. But it all started with Kyle Martin, was the first person that I got to work with on the campaign. Kyle, here, I saw him earlier.
He left her.
And then John Franks, and then Tracy Griffin took over, and then Brandon Grubenoff, is that the correct pronunciation? And then we had Jamie Lyerly. She, I don't know, did you know this is happening right now? Is this a surprise to you?
Surprise.
That you're supposed to come up here? Because Tracy won our 2019 Campaign Coordinator of the Year. It's building on the success of the other folks that I just mentioned. And that success has been from 2015 to 16, your United Way campaign went up 12%. From 16 to 17, it went up 67%. And then from 17 to 18, it went up 13%. So you have some really, really good growth numbers, and that's part of the reason that we're able to do those things that I just had said that we're doing. So Jamie, if you want to come up, I'll give you this plaque that I forgot to give you at our annual meeting when you were awarded it.
And before you leave, we're going to get a picture from Scott. He's just getting his camera now.
Okay.
Don't leave yet. Let's get a picture of the two of you, and then Jamie, if you jump up there.
Sure. Over this way?
Where do you want him,
Sure,
Scott?
over there.
As they're taking their picture, we actually have a contact in every building for the United Way, someone that leads the charge for raising money. Jamie, though, has kind of taken over the district leadership and coordinates all that with the buildings, and gosh, she deserves that honor.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And I conclude my comments. Thank you. Go Panthers. Good job beating Elder and Golden State. Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you,
Now
sir.
we go to Mason and do the same thing, right?
Go to item 2.2, the Springboro Education Association report. Everybody know. Item 2.3, the Springboro Classified Employees Association report. Item 2.4, any prearranged public participation? I don't believe we had any. Item 2.5, is there any public participation on the agenda items this evening? Okay. Move into work session. I think item 3.2, Ms. Hill will talk about the job coach position.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board. As you recall, back in, I believe it was April, we had students present with some special education, our high school students, about their job experiences. And we've been lucky enough to be supported by Warren County DD for a transition coordinator position. This year, I applied for that grant, as well as in addition for more monies from them for a job coach position. So with this job coach position, it would be a 5 days a week. The intent would be to get more of our students out into the community working. The job coach obviously would be that person to go out there with them in the community and do some of these tasks with them. We had a few of our students that were just kind of getting into that. Obviously, we want to see this grow. And this is an initiative because of the Employment First initiative, which was part of ODE, and it's just a requirement for our students to really get out into the community, especially some of our neediest students of all. So we're granted the grant this year from Warren County DD. We have 2 days of transition services from the transition coordinator, and then they also granted us monies to fund for a job coach for 5 days per week. So at this point in time, we do have a job description, but obviously I'll share that at a later time. But at this point in time, that's essentially what I'm seeking, and the grant should cover all, if not the majority, of that position at this point. So, any questions?
What kind of jobs are you looking for in the community for them, like to match them up with? And are you seeking that out still, or do you have everything that you're looking for?
We started last year with students. They were going, I don't know if you recall, they went to Otterbein, they went to Dorothy Lane Market, and a few other places locally. So obviously those places would continue. The intent is also, I don't know if you remember, some of the classrooms had developed work jobs within their classrooms to maybe try and outsource some more of that. I know like the cards is a big one. So some of that is still in the works, but naturally others that we had already started doing, we just would like to see more student participation be able to do that. And unfortunately, only having a transition coordinator here 2 days per week, she obviously isn't able to help maintain that. So the job coach position, we would like to bring in-house, whereas we have right now, we're contracted through the ESC for that transition coordinator. The job coach position would actually be one of our own employees. So that's another
you for seeking out grant money for
Yeah.
that. That's exciting.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
really
And
setting
thanks
those
to
kids
Warren
up.
County DD, for
Yeah.
having that opportunity too.
It's really
So we
preparing
still-
them for the future.
Yeah.
Sorry, could we still, you said it was a transition coordinator?
We still have that.
We would
Yep, they
still have
actually-
that?
Yes, so they granted us $50,000 between those two positions. And there's certain amount denominated for those positions, but that's the total amount that they granted us this year. So,
So there would need to be some that we're putting in to help supplement that.
the intent is not to do that. However, if we have to do that, we do have restoration, Part B restoration funds, because I've already talked with Tara about that. We do have restoration funds that would help support that piece
Oh,
of it
because the
as
one
well.
position going 2 days a week. 'Cause I'm like,
Yes.
surely they're making
Yes.
more than 20. Okay, okay,
Yes.
gotcha. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Uh-huh. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, it's item 3.3.
And before he talks, I do want to make sure everyone is introduced to Rob Robeson, our new Director of Facilities and Human Resources. And this is his first presentation here at the board meeting. Don't mess it up.
It is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, board president, board members. Obviously, we need some help when it comes to substitutes, not only in the buildings in the classroom, but the cooks and also the temporary groundskeeper. So what we've requested is a $1 per hour pay increase for those. Right now, we have 2 custodial grounds people that are substitutes, and we obviously want to grow that, so we have that bandwidth. And I'm not really sure of how many substitutes we have currently for our food service, but I do know that our Captain Poor, who does our food service periodically gets in line to serve food, so there's definitely a need there.
We have adjusted, just so you know, speaking of that history. We did increase sub rates like a year or 2 ago for some of the other positions, but these ones are not included in that. So this is kind of getting them up to the same level as the other jobs.
And we're still not at a high level,
Oh, no.
right? We're
We're
still
under
kind of
everybody.
under, that's what I thought, yeah.
But hopefully we still have a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3.4, Mr. Schreier to talk about the SHP or potential agreement with SHP.
As shared a little bit over some communication over email today, this, and we'll go back to the master planning process that we're doing as a school district. So all of you in the past met David Connolly from Rockwell, and that's what I said, Rockwell, who very articulately explained his part of this plan, on the finance part, and what he would be doing not only with master planning, but some of the other projects he was doing with our CFO's office. As we began going down through this process, a big part of this is the facility planning. So months ago, we knew we needed to do a facility assessment. Mr. Pinnell looked at 4 different companies, really more verbal, 4 companies, and it was no comparison. SHP, known as Steve Hammond and Paul, has been doing the work here for many, many years. They knew our buildings. They had already done an assessment years before, and I'm not sure how many years before, but they were able to come in for a little over $18,000 for the assessment. So that assessment was done, then some meetings started happening. We had the first community meeting where we met in the LGI and we had people come to learn about master planning, and then they signed up for teams. And we had a second meeting that happened, and those two teams started together and they broke out into rooms. Soon after that, actually on July 23rd, was when Todd Thackeray from SHP came to me and brought me this contract for the additional expenses. And frankly, didn't realize that was coming. And that's when after we were done, I met with Tara, and obviously she said this is a surprise, but she was also trying to figure out how he was doing this work for free. And didn't think about him having extra money, because obviously they had gotten $18,000 for the assessment, but this was different than the assessment. So we do appreciate the questions today. So I reached out to Mr. Thackeray and said, okay, we got some questions. We're not going to approve it tonight. We want to know specifically what is the project that you're going to be spending this money. And I also shared, we did have a little bit of concern with the amount. Because we are paying that amount to Rock Mill, but they are doing other work aside of the master planning. And he did share, he said that typically on their processes like this, they will charge somewhere between 35 and 55. 35 is the low end, and he would send us a new proposal for 35,000. And so then he went into detail on what he would do with this process. This is the first time that Tara and I have went through a planning process like this, and so this is new for us as we go through. On board docs, we have that document for you that Todd Thackeray has put together where he goes from August right up to December and then a board meeting after that. This is what he wants to do step by step for the $35,000. Now in his contract, it says that this process we would pay $17,500. If we do not do any kind of project in the future, in other words, if we don't do a renovation or we don't do a new building where we use SHP, well then we owe him the whole $35,000. However, if we do end up doing a project, then that money, I don't know how, it either gets tied in or he's going to make money from the other and he doesn't charge us the other $17,500. I think as a district we have to assume that we are paying $35,000 for this contract because we can't determine now if we're going to have a project or not in the future. Why we use SHP is because they have a history of this district. Do we have to use them? No. As a board, you can decide whether or not we want to use them, whether you want us to go out and look for other architects, which I'm very happy to do, or we can try to do this work internally. The internal part would be difficult because we would still need to talk to an architect. If the facility group starts talking about, oh, maybe we should do a facility here, well, someone as a professional has to look at how much that would cost to bring back to the master planning finance team later. I mean, is that anything I'm missing?
No, I mean, an architect would have to, I mean, because they have to go by spec, and they have to say what the options are, what it would include. And I think a lot of the discussion too is around safety and security. So looking at safety and security measures within our own buildings, or in which that would be, those are all things that an architect would have to be able to tell what changes would have to be made to a current building to add potential safety and security features to our current buildings as well as the new building. So I mean, either way, this process would have to occur, whether it's SHP or anyone else. I know John Pennell was very fond of SHP when he was here because they had done so many things, and he had mentioned several times that he had done a lot of projects with other school districts, and they were the one that he's never had an issue with, so I think that was why it was easy to keep them.
And I sincerely apologize for the time. We didn't expect to see this. But it made sense when we saw it. It wasn't a question that we answered ahead of time, oh, we paid you $18,000, what's coming next? And so, yes, they've already had a couple of meetings, that if we would decide we don't want to do SHP or we want to kind of take some time to look, we owe them something for 2 meetings. Luckily, we didn't go down through the whole process. And again, I'm sorry for the time.
So what is the time frame on this future building? Is there, I'm not reading this, it doesn't look like this future project that would sort of offset the other half, the 17,500. Is there a time frame on that?
So what would happen is, after this whole process, the goal of the process is the facilities team recommends to the finance team that we believe here is the first choice, second choice, third choice of how to fix facilities, build new facilities. Here's our plan. Then the finance group that Tara and David Conley are a part of will then say, okay, if we do that, this is how we're going to fund it. It would take this levy, or it would take this, or whatever. Then all of that information is brought to the board, and then the board says, okay, we like this, and we're going to move this way for a levy. So then at that point, something has to pass. As long as that process is going, they hold off on the fee. If at some point we say we're not passing the levy, we're not moving forward, or no, we're not going to do any more facilities, then we would pay that. I think the safe thing to think is you're paying the money. You know, it's somehow, some way we would do that. Is 35,000 a good fee for this? I don't know that without going out and talking to other architect firms, which I have not done because SHP started the process with the assessment.
And do we know if John Pennell, like I'm wondering if this got sort of wrapped up somehow in the transition from Mr. Pennell?
John would have not looked at other companies for this part of it, and Todd did not tell me that he gave John any kind of contract, and I believe he did. John worked with them to get the best firm to do the assessment,
Do that
which
initial.
18,000, which David Conley did share with us. That was a good price. He did share that with us.
Because Phil Silver's assessments are way more than
Yeah, I
that.
thought we were
Because-
talking closer to like
40 to 50.
Yeah,
Yes.
because they had already done the one a few years ago, they were able to update the one they had done a few years ago and make changes to where it wasn't a full brand new assessment. So that was able to keep the cost down for that piece.
My concern with this is when we first started talking about our strategic goals, we realized as a board that we needed to make sure that we had the master plan of, as we look forward 5 or 10 years down the road, do we have the facilities in place to have our strategic goals play out in what we feel we need as a district. And that's how we realized we needed to make sure we had those steps in place. And to do that, we need to talk to the community and make sure that we are representing the desires of the community. So my understanding was, let's put together a group, and we knew that David Conley, we already had him on board with this other work, and this could be something that he also does with the money that we already have employed him for. That's part of his work. And so to me, I understand that some of this costs money, but I thought that was under what we already had paid out to him. So that's why I supported us contracting with him another year, because I knew we needed that additional support with future planning. I was very surprised to see this on the agenda, because to now picture that we've got 40,000 with Conley and 18,000 with the assessment, and another now down to 35,000 just to do planning. I just want to hear, I know that we're going to need some help with knowing what the community wants, but the numbers going up and up and up for us to even think through for the future. And it just feels like we're putting a lot of money into this that I don't know that, I'm concerned with the amount that we're putting into it. And I'm also concerned that the person leading us with this has a benefit if we choose to build new buildings. There's a benefit to him, because clearly he could be the architect that would be benefiting from us building new buildings. So if I were him, I would kind of lead the discussion towards you need new buildings. And so it's hard for me to say, let's put now 35,000 on top of the 18,000 that we already contracted with him, and trust that he's not gonna lead that group of 10 community members towards us needing new buildings. And if we need that, then great. If we can get the community behind that, and that's really what we need, that's awesome. But I just want to know that that's really what we need. And that's where I felt like that was where I was hoping that we were going, that there's no ulterior motive of a company, that it's just truly figuring out for Springboro what is best in that 10-year plan, and knowing that some of our buildings, I get it, are getting older, so we have to look at that future. But I just want to make sure that there's no underlying push to it. Like with David, I don't think that he would benefit at all if we chose one direction or another. I don't think. Do you see where my concern is? And when I saw that contract, I'm like, whoa.
Well, I get it, Mrs. Babb, and I have been very frank with Todd Thackeray in the fact that if we ever do a new building, or if we do some kind of addition where we need architect work, it doesn't get handed to them. This would be a bid process, so we would have several companies, we go with low bid and all this other stuff. So he knows from the start that this isn't to be handed over. My background with this company from other schools is not positive, and we won't go any further there. So this, I would want to make sure I looked at every company before we would move forward. That's why I keep saying, if we go with this, figure we're paying 35, because we don't know if they're gonna be working on it in the future.
I guess the only thing I'd say, I appreciate the concerns that you've raised, Mrs. Babb, but I guess, like, it would be true of any architect. Like, you're, based on what we're asking, whoever it is in this position, we're asking them to facilitate these community discussions and then help cost out things that the community is saying, new ways of information. So I don't know that SHP is unique in regard of wanting our business down the road. I think any architect you bring in to do this, to assist with putting a dollar figure around something that may be needed, you could have the same concern. So I guess I would just say that I don't know that I view that as unique to SHP. I think if you're going to ask somebody to help put a cost on something that the community is potentially need, you're gonna have to involve an architect, and it's an
They
architect.
could benefit,
An architect,
yeah.
yeah, they're likely. So I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm not sure I see a way
That
around
we could do a way
that.
around it, that's
I
fair.
don't see a way around getting somebody that is an expert to help put a cost to, what is ultimately the,
And I think during the
Communities.
facilitation piece of with these meetings, with Dan as heading the facility side with Pop Factory, I think that it's got to be very much communicated that we're not looking for any direction. We're looking at what do you want to see Springboro looking like? What would you support? What are your thoughts? And then based off of where those conversations are going, is based off of, okay, well, how much would that cost? And then do you still feel the same way now that you know how much this costs? It won't even get to the finance side until they have options of, this is what we really want, this is the middle ground, and this is bare minimum, and then that's when we would determine, what type of financing options do we have to adhere to one of these options. So I think as long as we're making sure we have an effort of communicating exactly what the district requests are for those community members as to how, what you want and what you would support, and I think we're okay.
And I don't know how Todd, I haven't sat in on Todd, you have, but with David, he's been very, he has said more than once, I'm not here to tell you. So I assume Todd's doing the same thing. I'm not here to tell you, I'm here to facilitate you all. This has to be your decision, ultimately the board's, but I like that, and I assume Todd's doing the same thing. But Jamie's right, from a business standpoint, when you're dealing with these kind of numbers and consultants, they're all gonna put in front of you some kind of enticement to stay with them, but on the other hand, really, at the end of the day, the only enticement is how good a job they do. If they don't do a good job, then we don't wanna work with them anyway, but I don't disagree with that half and half. I don't really care for that either, but, I think that's probably gonna be the norm. And I think we're in there, I know you're in there, Dan's in there, so I'm in the other one. I think from a board, we're participating in this process, so we can see firsthand what we feel like.
And Jamie will also be there.
And Jamie,
Yeah, and that should be in most of them too, as long as they're on separate days.
yeah,
And they actually are, by the way, the finance will meet the first Tuesday of every month. This committee will meet the second Tuesday of every month, except for the first one, which is happening the third Tuesday this month.
we said, so.
yeah, just so I'm clear, so the first, because again, I think there was some confusion in terms of exactly sort of what we were getting with that initial sort of assessment. Was that just more like a baseline, like a current state, evaluate everything?
Great question. So at the first
What did we
meeting,
get for the first?
the first meeting, he gave a spreadsheet to the entire group that I can forward to the entire board, that shared, I believe it was $55 million of renovations. Was that number seem right, or 50? Somewhere between 50 and 55 million. If we were to have every building in this district get up to code, replace what we need to, windows, all of these things that need to happen, that with no new construction, you're looking at 50 to 55 million. So part of the discussion was, as a district, we put aside 600 grand every year for capital. So over the next 10 years, You've got 6 million confirmed set aside, oh, wait, we need 55 million. So that was the first conversation. All of his assessment was, where are the buildings now and where do they need to be for the future? Now, the committee will start talking, okay, do we want this option? Do we want that option? Do we want to build new? Do we want to do this? And so that's where the conversation happened. His whole assessment was, where are we now and where should we be in 10 years? That's what we paid for.
I do remember when we saw that, in his final report, there was like school buses were in there, and safety and security cameras, I mean, there was a lot of other things other than just buildings, it was a lot of other things that were on cycles.
And when I said buildings,
Sorry, I just
bus
didn't
garage
realize that was-
includes buses, just like, he actually talked a little bit about some athletic things in there, not a whole lot. It even goes down to the board office, so it was every building in our whole.
So are we positive this, since we were surprised by the cost of this, that this was coming to us, it seemed to surprise both of you, are we positive that there's no additional cost that they're gonna come back to us with then
I
in this
confirm that.
process?
I confirm that.
Because this is only 8 or 9 meetings and he's getting $35,000. So I'm wanting to make sure that we're not gonna find out midstream that he's gonna come back again at other.
This is, he said this is the package to finish this off for the master facility and planning process.
Any further questions?
We do not have this as an action item tonight. We'll discuss, in case we have more questions in the next week or two, we can bring it to the next meeting too.
If anybody has any questions, any further questions, then just have them forward those questions to Mr. Schreier.
When he sends the new proposal.
It's there.
This is the new proposal.
Oh,
I put it in there.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yes.
We changed it.
We're time
Anything else on 3.4? Okay, move into item 3.5, committee reports.
Mine isn't on here, I just had a 15 meeting today, so I don't have the minutes completed yet. But McGowan and Braybender did come in, they are partners, our insurance brokers, and they're helping us navigate our way through our different insurance options that we have to mitigate our 22% insurance increase in January of 2020. They went through with the committee on some different options that we have after we went out to market, and that way they're gonna have a little bit of time to think about it, and we're coming back together on the 22nd to have, to kind of get what they believe they would like to see, and then we'll be coming to the board on an executive session on the 22nd, the next day, kind of going over with you guys all what they would like, and then we have to make a decision and let the EPC know by September 1st for the January 1 renewal. So it was a good meeting. It was actually very positive today and enlightening, I think. The market review didn't look super promising for us in our claims because of our claims history. So I think it opened up a lot of eyes as to some work that we need to do to get our claims costs down.
Yeah, I would just echo Mrs. Floyd said. We'll come back and go through all of the details on the 22nd, but two things. The gist of it was, there's probably a lot of work that needs to be done in order to really sort of strongly evaluate some of those other options, and just our current position is not really conducive to leave us a lot of options. I'll say that. We're fairly limited, and so I think there's a lot of work to be done as we go forward to try and hopefully open up some additional options for us. Again, we'll go through the details on the 22nd, but I will say this is my first interaction with McGowan and Braybender, and was really impressed by the level of work that they did, and I think we made a wise decision by engaging them. I kind of wish we had done it years ago, but I can definitely see the value that they bring already, and some of the options that they brought back to us, even with staying in the EPC, that looked more attractive than what we had initially received from the EPC. And again, part of that is just their experience and their expertise and their relationships. I think they were able to give us some options that we hadn't thought of that looked fairly attractive and seemed to be well received by the folks in the room. So I think that relationship is already paying dividends, and it was a wise investment. Were there any other committees? I know we had an athletic council last night. Mr. Rose isn't here. We covered a lot of administrative stuff. to the start of the year. So but it was a good discussion, but it was a lot of just things for the coaches as they sort of enter into the year, just with fundraising and eligibility and those sorts of things. So I will spare you the details.
Sounds exciting.
It was riveting, really. Okay, then we'll move to item 3.6, discussion of other business as required. Any other stuff for work session? Okay.
Are we allowed to offer any input?
On any of the work session items?
I thought you guys were approving the transportation schedule. I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, that's down in item 6.3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So earlier, we had public participation on agenda items,
Yes.
and that would be the right time if you want to.
Yeah, if we want to go back to that on item
I'm sorry, I
2.5,
must
do you
have
have?
missed that.
Sorry.
You've got your hands full. a little bit.
Yes, I do.
No worries, yeah, so you'd like to speak about item 6.3 then, the approval of the bus stops for the, yeah, if you want to just state your name and your address, I think is generally what we do, and then I think we said 3,
3 minutes.
try to keep around 3 minutes or so.
Okay.
Perfect.
My name is Jessica Bessinger. I live in Noble Creek Farms at 3192 Ashmeadow Lane. I have a second grader, an upcoming second grader. And I found out our bus change is for this coming school year, which is no longer going to be her being picked up at our house. I have a problem with that because Mr. Hopkins lives in our neighborhood, and I'm not comfortable with her walking out of my line of sight to a bus stop where there's child predators that could be in close proximity to her. I called the transportation department and they were unwilling to make an accommodation for this. And so I thought I would bring it to your attention. It seems like an oversight on Springboro's part. I think it seems unsafe to me. Is there anything that can be done?
Want to respond?
There are several little girls in this neighborhood, it's just not just mine.
So we received, the board received an email earlier
Okay, good.
from another parent about the same issue. Harry Hester is actually here tonight as our Assistant Superintendent of Operations. Whenever we get emails about anything, we always will look into it and we'll respond.
Okay,
And so we don't have an answer tonight. Give us a day or two to actually look into this, and we'll be able to respond on, great, we can make a change and this is why, or no, we don't make a change and here is why, but we can discuss it more. So, yeah, you'll have a respectful answer and we'll give you the reasons one way or another, and we can have more conversation. So you'll hear from Mrs. Hester on that.
But I don't believe you sent us the
No,
email,
she didn't.
Right, so.
I did send you a letter about 4:30, I just didn't know if it would get to you guys in time.
A letter or an email?
It was the email.
Oh, okay.
It could have been another
Oh,
parent or
I'm
neighborhood
sorry.
also.
So the title of it had a different name than at the bottom. We got it.
Oh, okay,
So you did send it, and we will be responding to you.
okay,
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's, okay. Got it.
thank you.
We're back there. Treasurer report? Okay.
Well, it's been a busy month, obviously. July is a busy month with everything starting up the school year, getting everything ordered and ready for when the kiddos come back. There's a lot of timing issues, so we usually anticipate cash flow wise what we believe our expenditures and revenue will be in each month. And so far, cash flow wise, we're about $600,000 under anticipated, so it looks like we're saving money, but it's most likely just timing issues of when invoices are coming in and when they're being paid. But everything else looks really good. Obviously, I said we're under, but we'll have to see how that plays out and see if that continues, or if, as I said, it was just a timing issue. We've been receiving lots of cash advances, tax advances from taxpayers, so they're paying their taxes early. So we received just $8.5 million, a little over that for July. And we're about $275,000 under expenditures as of this time last year, so that's promising. And we ended the month at just over $16 million, so things are looking good from the finance department.
Questions? discussion, any questions?
Anderson,
Yes.
Bab,
Yes.
Palage,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Abstain.
Okay, we'll move into Assistant Superintendent of District Operations. Ms.
Good
Hester.
morning, or good morning.
Long day.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. I am asking for your approval of item 5.1, the personnel report through this first part of August. It's been very busy in HR. To date, we have hired 42 new employees district-wide. We had a few unexpected resignations. These two teachers are actually leaving education to go into sales. And then the other ones were moves out of state or time for early retirement.
Is there a motion to approve item 5.1, the approval of personnel report?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Stuckey,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bab,
Yes.
Palage,
Yes. Okay.
I'm going to present item 5.2 for your approval. This is the athletic report that all but Mr. Stuckey can vote on.
Oh, I can't go.
No, yes, you can.
Yeah, you
Yes,
can on
you
this
can.
one. We're also
We
gonna
pulled
do
5.5
we're also gonna do 5.3 in this one. as
And
well.
5.3 is the camp workers that you all are familiar with.
So
but-
this one,
I don't think it was originally separated on that.
We did it this afternoon.
We just did that this
So you're
afternoon.
just young and abstaining, you know, I've got
I
a
know,
lot of
you're
experience.
very experienced in this, okay.
So 5.3 and 5.4 we are voting on.
So 5.4 is the,
5.2 and 5.3.
5.4 is the approval of 5.2
Correct.
and 5.3. Yes, okay, so is there a motion to approve items 5.2 and 5.3?
So moved.
Second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bab,
Yes.
Palage,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Abstain.
And now I present for your approval 5.5 for the supplemental contract for Mrs. Palage as our assistant cross-country coach.
Is there a motion to approve item 5.5?
So moved.
Second.
Only you two can vote.
Okay.
all right, Stuckey,
Abstain.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bab,
Yes.
Palage,
Abstain.
Excellent, thank you.
You were really important tonight.
Call her and tell her she can't go to practice.
I'm abstaining anyway.
All right. Now we move into the Director of Facilities, the approval for the pay increase. I guess the things we discussed earlier for the substitute assistant cook, the substitute custodian, and then the bus stops, I guess. So is there anything else we want to say related to those?
I will say the bus stops, even though you're approving the bus stops tonight, doesn't mean that we can't revise them, which happens throughout the year because of new people moving in, because we realized, oh, we should change that stop to this stop and so forth. So I want to make sure, especially with the parent that spoke tonight, by approving tonight, this does not set it in stone. There can be revisions. The board doesn't approve those revisions. You just approve the first stops we have now.
I'll save my questions for you. So item 6.4 seeks the approval of items 6.1 through 6.3. Is there a motion? Can I have a motion? Second.
Second.
On the bus stops, two questions. I know in the athletic council last night, we were talking about sort of just the overall maybe potential shortage of drivers. I just didn't know if we had a sense of like, are we good on drivers, we short?
We are very not well. We
Yeah.
have one substitute bus driver. for
That's
one.
it.
So you will see the banners on the old bus at Clear Creek
I have
saying bus drivers wanted. Scott will be doing some work as far as PR, sending out things to get more bus drivers. It's a great job. We just don't have enough people right now. I mean, we've got 68 buses on the road at any given time. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it came up in the context of the athletic transportation, and so I was just curious overall, so we are still running
Oh, yeah.
short.
I worry about the day I have to cancel school because we don't have enough bus drivers.
And then in terms of the stops this year, I mean, are they comparable? Are there significant changes in terms of just at a conceptual level? I mean, So we're not gonna go through
Conceptually,
every single one.
Conceptually, the changes that were made revolve, many of them around cul-de-sacs. Traditionally, we have went into most cul-de-sacs, and because of that, we've had a handful of accidents where we've hit another car, just because of how small these cul-de-sacs are, and people don't have their cars off the streets. We also try to avoid cul-de-sacs where you have to go in and do backing, and then there could be a blind spot where students could be. We did not this year get rid of all cul-de-sacs, only the ones that were the biggest safety issue. And so no student, I mean, the state law says a student can walk up to a half a mile for the bus stop. At no point are we having students walk a half mile. We try to keep it at the most 0.1 or 0.2 miles, but this is an art. And we try to put the stops at the right places, and we will do some tweaking as the year goes. We try to do what's best for kids. What every family would love, as I do, is to have every stop in front of everyone's house. But the problem is that the bus, the length of time the students are on the bus can really get long at that point.
Are the average times in our bus routes pretty comparable to prior years?
Well, we are trying to lessen them every year. I believe we are comparable to last year. I know the year before we tried, the average was about 5 to 10 minutes less. I think some of our longest routes are 55 to 60 minutes, where we were having some in the past go an hour, 10 hour, and 15. So we're doing the best to keep it down. Not saying there will be a bus route that goes longer. It happens.
And are we, on our high school buses, we still have the sixth graders more towards the front of the bus? Or separated somehow than our older kids? Is that still? Okay.
That's still the protocol.
The
Yes.
protocol? Okay. I had some questions about that, and I said, I'm pretty sure that that's still what we're doing, because of the parents of sixth graders. Yeah.
And I've been working very closely with Mrs. Palmer, who is, it's a rapidly changing dynamic every day with new enrollees. And she figured out, as of about 4 o'clock today, that we transport 6,123 students in a 3-hour period of time to get them from their house starting around 5:45 to school by 9:30 with 68 buses. So we're really running on a shoestring. That's not even parochial students that we have to transport.
Any other questions?
Stephen?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bath?
Yes.
Palage?
Yes. Okay. And, item 7.1.
Sorry, I can stand up. I was like, good evening again. So tonight I am seeking approval for student services and private placement contracts. One that I would like to point out was a late addition. It's the very last one on the list. This was received at 3:54 today, and the reason behind that is the student, they need this contract signed before he can start on Tuesday.
This is the one at Cincinnati. This is the tricky thing in budgeting, is when, you know, it's great that we can service our special needs students in Springboro, but it's very difficult to budget when we have to do what's best for them. So kudos to us for servicing our students like we need, and there's nothing we can do about that, but it is, you know, it's expensive for the district in order to give them what they need, but it's the right thing to do, so
It is very
of course
nice.
we're gonna support that, yeah.
How's this number compared to last year?
Our student placement contracts?
So,
We've kind of been stockpiling these also, so some of these we knew that they were coming this way throughout the summer, and so there's a lot more at this point in time, because there was no sense in just doing one here and one there, so we just
I
kind
feel
of.
like we
But
did
most
these
of
in
them,
throughout
most
the
of them
year,
are,
though, don't we?
we had most of these last year.
Yes, correct.
So we knew one
The
that's-
one at the very bottom, the Cincinnati Center for Autism, that's the new one.
We've had a few kiddos also when we move out, so
Yep.
it's kind of all ebb and flows.
so
Yeah.
Cincinnati's a new one.
That's a new one, as of 3:54 this afternoon,
So
yeah.
that's just for everybody's sake, for example, to Lisa's point, it's a $60,000 pot that we didn't know 2 hours ago.
Correct.
So when
and by law, it's what, if that is what the needs of the child, if that's what the need of the child is, then that is what we as a district are required to do, because it's the right thing to do for the child.
And we do it, but it wasn't planned.
Right. So you do your best that you can to help us budget for what the needs are, but when a new child comes into the district or a diagnosis is given, then
Yes.
we respond to it.
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve item 7.1?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Stuckey?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bath?
Yes.
Palage?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move into announcements and future considerations. Mrs. Babb?
It was nice hearing United Way, the different things. I didn't realize some of the things that they've done for our district. I didn't realize they were doing the Stop Summer Slide. That's a great program, and it was nice to hear how many of the kids in Springboro have received the free books, so that was cool. And it's nice to know how much our district has supported United Way too. It's a great program. Something that Mrs. Hester shared was a bit troubling to me, and that is to hear 2 teachers leaving the teaching profession for sales. That just is sad to me that, you know, you go to school for teaching and they clearly have a passion for kids and for investing in, for whatever reason, whether it's finances because we can't pay what sales does, or, you know, because teachers give so much of their time, it's not an 8-to-5 job, and so they're taking it home and it just doesn't work with their quality of life or whatever. I just think that it's just it was a wake up when you said that we had 2 teachers that we just lost to sales. I mean, kudos to them that they've made that choice, that what's best for them, but I just think it's sad. And the last thing was also what you shared with the bus stops, and just thank you to that team down there and to Mrs. Palmer of 6,123 kids in a 3-hour period, and what navigation must take place. And I know there's a computer program, but there's also extenuating circumstances, I'm sure, that need to be taken into effect or into account, and kids that need specific bike buses, special needs buses, and aids and things like that. So I'm sure that is a huge undertaking, so just appreciate the work that goes on down prior to school to make sure that all can logistically happen. And with only having 1 extra bus driver, the stress of dealing with it, you know, before the school day. So just thank you to the transportation team. That's it. Excited for school to start.
I gave everybody a little catch up on Warren County Career Center, so you have that. Now, Dave's going to, your turn.
The only thing I have tonight is, I'm sure everybody's aware of what took place in the Oregon District this past week. You know, one of the people that were killed, Logan Turner's graduate, 2008. I was very close to Logan. He played football for us and was a lineman, and I was his line coach his senior year. And then a couple years later, he came on my freshman staff and coached with me for a year. You know, he couldn't ask for a better type kid, and it's just, you know, a sad situation of what happened not only to him but the other people involved. I believe Charles is handling the services. It's 4 to 8 is the viewing tomorrow night, and then the funeral is at 10 o'clock Saturday morning. So, you know, not just him, but the other people we need to keep them in our prayers. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey. Along those lines, I guess I can start there. I didn't know if, I know I've seen some things around like GoFundMe, there's like a GoFundMe fundraiser, which I don't think the school can participate in for legal reasons, but I didn't know if maybe there was a potential for like the Dayton Foundation or something like that, if it might be possible for us to use some of our discretionary funds and potentially make a donation as a board in Logan's name. Maybe that's something we can explore and discuss at a future meeting. I think that was something that actually came up at the Athletic Council last evening, and they were talking about ways that it's an athletic program they might be able to support them, but I just thought that might be something that we want to consider. So just bringing that on, you all, that we can think about that, and maybe there's a way that, through some of our discretionary funds, we might be able to make the Dayton Foundation, I think, is gathering donations, and like Mr. Simmons said, I would certainly extend my condolences to Logan's family, and just, it was heartbreaking to learn of that. So, on a lighter note, though, I would echo what Mrs. Babb said, just in terms of wishing everybody a great start to the school year. I know it's a particularly busy, hectic time for everybody involved, parents, staff, students, and I just hope everything goes smoothly over the next week, and just excited to get the school year started, and appreciate all the hard work that is going into making that a success.
Just one final comment before we move on. Last Thursday, I had the honor to take 3 seniors with me to the Chamber monthly breakfast for a State of the Schools address. It was a nice presentation from those 3 students, and as part of the presentation, I have given you a glossy paper in front of the top accomplishments from last school year. This was an effort of the administrative team looking at many, many things that had happened over the last year, and being able to have a professional document that can be shared at those events, can be in the buildings as people visit, at the chamber office, and so forth. So I give that to you for your reading enjoyment. Mr. President, that's all we have tonight.
All right. If there are no other announcements, then we will, item 9.1, executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employer or official. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Just a reminder that everything that's discussed in executive session will remain confidential.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Babb?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.